Hey everybody, it's Pete Carmasino here at Chaikin Analytics. Thanks for tuning into this week's halftime show on StockCharts TV. Each and every week, we kind of go over different aspects of how to use our rating that you can buy as a plugin on StockCharts on the ACP platform, which you should be using. By doing so, you're combining fundamentals and technicals because you've got an incredible technical platform here on the ACP. Plugins and platforms that you can use. You've got all the indicators you can ever ask for and more. But on the fundamental side, when you overlay that, our rating, which is a fundamentally biased rating, in other words, where 85% of that rating is on a fundamental basis. There is some technicals in it, of course, but we like to kind of show how it's setting up on the ACP platform and how you see it on the Chaikin platform. If you're not using Chaikin, I understand, but at least you have an idea of how the rating can help you if you're just using the ACP platform. So today, and every few weeks, I like to go over some scans that I can pull down from the ACP platform and then kind of look at the charts and how they're setting up. Today, I'm looking at an overbought with a declining RSI. All right. So we're looking at stocks that were performing and that are kind of pulling back slightly. And we're seeing how they're set up. Now, we might see some bullish ones. We might see some bearish ones. But depending upon the chart, you're able to interpret it. Not only that, but you can look at the environment. If these stocks are in certain sectors or industries that are performing, they could be opportunities. If they're in certain sectors that are underperforming, they may be avoids. Let's take a look and let's see what we see. All right, everybody, we're back here on the ACP platform. And all I did was open the platform, go to the area that you can see scans. And then I just went to a predefined scan that's already on here. Easy for you to kind of find and use. And so we're going to look at as many as we can anyway. We've got a list here. It looks like about 20 some odd names or so, and some names that are kind of oil related, like US Silica and some other ones, PBA Pipeline. We're going to look at a couple of these, but let's see how they're setting up, and I'll show you how you find the plugin. So obviously you can go to the plugins here and you can find what's available. There's plenty of them here, and we're down here somewhere. You find the Chaikin plugin. Once you get that, there's our little icon. And lo and behold, when you pull up a stock, you can see our rating and how it's broken down between financials, earnings, technicals, and experts. Okay. And we'll go over that a little bit. If you need a refresher on that, just look us up, chaikinanalytics.com, and go look at our power gauge rating, and it explains exactly all the different factors in there as well. So let's take a look at this particular name. In the aerospace industrial sector, ARR Corp, symbol AIR, AIR. And there it is. Obviously, you're seeing a move that had broken out. The RSI is declining. And so we're going to take a look at, obviously, it was overbought a little bit. Let's look at how it looks on our system. I'll pull up AIR here. And what are we seeing? We're seeing a pullback today, down 4.5%. Earnings, they beat last week. You got a strong stock and a strong industry. Interesting looking chart here. Kind of like that sort of almost, it's partially a cup and handle, a cup with two handles here. But you can see where the relative strength started to change here, really around that $36, $38. Broke out, kind of tested the sort of the top of that handle here at 39. Did it a couple times, really, and then broke out and all the way to $50 pretty quickly. So now you've got maybe some confirmation. Good industry. And the stock is pulling back. Kind of an interesting setup. And here are all the factors. Look how they're playing out, right? It's a small cap name. It's got a decent PE. Financials are looking very, very strong here. The ROE and the cash flow is a little weak, but long-term debt to equity, price to book, price to sales are really nicely in line. And that's after the stock had broken out. So it was definitely a value play. I think most people kind of recognized, but you might be able to catch it again as it pulls back in the trend. Let's look at AVEO, and that's a small name. Now, this one should be interesting, right? Without looking at it, obviously, we have a neutral minus on it. I can see my rating here at Chaikin Analytics, and that rating is already telling me I've got a weak fundamental name. Look at the chart. The long-term averages, and the short-term averages have crossed to the downside. Can you bet? Take a look before we look at this. Is this in a downtrend? Obviously, it is, right? Let's take a look. Relative strength already weak. It's been weak since November, December, and look what's happening. So is this an opportunity where you're seeing a relative strength change? It very well could be. I would say it's way too early to tell. When you look at a name like this, you're looking at a micro cap almost, $195 million market cap, very little revenue, $25 million. I mean, this is not a name that you want to be looking at unless there's some sort of catalyst in the biotechnology field that a name like this might take advantage of. Here's a name that's down almost 6% today, BELFB's electrical component type company. Let's take a look. BELFB, BELFB. Wow, interesting breakout. You know, we tend to like these kind of charts. Obviously, not when it lives too high above the range, because a pullback is, I would say, almost inevitable. I think most people would say that as well. I'm not giving you some incredible philosophy here, but when it starts to pull back, if you can get into that 21-day, that middle band for us is a 21-day exponential moving average, and look at the long-term trend is at $14. Is it overbought? Absolutely. If you look at the RSI, is it declining? Sure, it's coming back. Maybe if it gets back closer to 50 and it holds that $14 range, you know, it could be an opportunity. And look, it's very early in the trend. The moving averages haven't even crossed yet to the upside. You can take, as I said, hundreds of technical indicators and go take a look. But this one just looks interesting. It's just starting, really. Here's a name. Look at this, integrated oil and gas. Now, I was saying, pay attention to the environment. All right. You start looking at the environment. You understand oil's been running. We got oil off today. Why? Well, Shanghai's shutting down. And that's the world's largest container port shipping area in the world. And obviously, people are worried about cargo throughput slowing down, and that's obviously affecting oil. So if we look at EQNR on our system here, EQNR. Oh, wow. I mean, the stock has been in an uptrend for a long time. So were there other pullbacks? Absolutely. Did they pay off? It certainly looks like they did. Is this one going to work? I wish I knew. But here's the thing. When it gets to the overbought level and pulls back, as long as it holds that 50 range on the RSI, you know, I think it's probably an opportunity to either add or maybe take a, you know, look for a trade. If it looks like support could be somewhere around that $25 range, that's right on that 55 EMA. Let's look where ours is. That would be really below our ranges, but even here around that $30 to $31 level could be an interesting opportunity. So pay attention to it. Look, it's telling you the market likes the stock, right? Obviously, look at the relative strength. It's been strong since September. We don't want to fight the trend. I want to look at U.S. Silica down here. It caught my eye when I was kind of glancing through the list. Now, this is definitely an oil-related name. It looks really interesting. Obviously, the cross is very early here. Materials, general mining. There's a lot going on in this name. But let's take a look at our charts and see what we can see on our system here. Okay, down about 5%. Again, a big run. Obviously, oil, the Ukraine-Russia situation, conflict is not boding well. You know, when supply levels are being depleted or just less supply in the system, obviously prices are going to move higher. Now, oil is down about 7% or so today, and other stocks are kind of following suit. They're very tied to oil. This one happened to be overbought, and it's really in line with this particular RSI. They typically don't line up because this is not an RSI. Don't confuse this. This is our proprietary overbought, oversold indicator. It's similar, but not exactly like RSI. Our relative strength versus the SPY is right down here. The calculation is done for you. And that was an interesting setup. We like finding those names. Look, 10 to 18. Hey, I'll take, you know, 70% move, $11 or so, $10 or so to $18 and change. That's an excellent move in a very short amount of time. But you're looking for these pullbacks. You're looking for these oversold setups where the relative strength stays strong. And is that going to happen here in this name again? It looks early. I mean, honestly, it looks like it could maybe come back to that $13, $14 range, and there could be an opportunity there. Let's find another one like Steel Dynamics. Again, another one that's, I would think, in a healthy situation, considering the environment. Overbought for sure, sliding slightly, about 3.5% or so. Let's look at STLD. And again, living in that upper edge of what we call our volatility bands here. The 21-day is right around $75, $76 and overbought. So relative strength looks interesting here. We've got an excellent rating. Company we know to be a pretty large company. PE is very low. Okay yield. It's not fantastic. But in the metals and mining space, which has really been doing well, if you go and look at the ETF XME, the Spider S&P Metals and Mining. It almost looks identical to Steel Dynamics. And really, that range and that trade has been sort of in play for a few months now, since really January, but coming off of a big base. Interesting setup here. Let's look at one more or two more, depending upon our time here. And let's take a look at this one. I don't really know this name. PBA. Pembina Pipeline. Okay, we got a bullish rating. Financials aren't great. It could be more of a valuation problem. We'll look at our rating to find out. But obviously, some trouble here. So this name is not immune to pretty high volatility. So you got to be careful when you see a stock that can move, from $28 to $9. You got to be careful. You may want to go back and see what's going on here, what happened. If I pull up PBA on our system, and the only thing that attracted me to it was in the oil and gas area, obviously. But you want to go back and find out what the heck happened when the stock went and lost a third of its value here. Well, it was March. I'm sorry. This is a weekly chart. Sorry. Hold on. Let me look at a daily. We know what happened there. But anyway, I'll continue with this. So take a look, right? Look at that base here, triple bottom around $28, moves higher. Everything was kind of in line since those moving averages crossed back in December of 2020. It's been a while. If I look here, the recent relative strength change for us happened around 32. Yep, right around $30, $32. Moved higher. It's really not running terribly out of control. It's got a decent yield. Let's see, is it a foreign company? I would imagine it might be. No, it doesn't seem to be. So this is an interesting play. Now, the valuation I said I'll look at in the financials. See, price to sales, price to book is neutral. Price to sales a little bit heavy. Long-term debt to equity and cash flow struggling here. And maybe people are looking at higher oil prices, higher for longer, so to speak, that might benefit a name like this. So you got to kind of, unpack this one a little bit. Okay, everybody. I just got through a few names here, but I hope you see the value of adding the fundamental rating, the Chaikin Power Gauge rating, adding that plug into the StockCharts platform, using all of the capabilities of the ACP platform, scanners, indicators, whatever you need to use. There's so much information, so much education on the site. When you add the Power Gauge rating on top of that, you get a really good idea of what's happening fundamentally. So we saw a couple of names that were trending higher, that were bullish, that are just pulling back slightly with maybe the commodity oil because they're in that particular industry. And you saw other names that were already in a downtrend, have had a spike, could have been a short covering, could be a lot of things. Just the market moved them higher, but they were already in a downtrend. So there are names that you may want to avoid. There may be names that you might have an opportunity to sell if you're trading them. And there may be other names that you might be able to add to or initiate positions in that have already started to move higher and have pulled back slightly, and you let price come to you a little bit. I hope this helps. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll talk real soon.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.